Hello, everyone. This is Korak for the American Reach Mahjong League. I am joined by Sarah. Sarah, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. It's been a little while since I've done commentary, so I'm glad to get back into the swing of things.
Well, we are casting an A1 match. As you can see from the standings, we have Erik, who's a dominant first place in the league right now, and a few people that are kind of on the relegation zone. So the question is, will Erik really pull away, or will we see Lucas maybe come back from that 13th slot? Of course, the bottom four will demote, but Jonathan doesn't count. So right now it would be Simon, Lucas, Kaz, and June, but we still have a lot of time. This is a really intense table because, especially with Dustin, Lucas, and June, you're fighting against the people that you're always going against. So if you don't take care of those points, someone else is going to get them.
Right. It's interesting with this table having the player who's at the very top of this division with the player who's at the very bottom. It makes you think how the two of them are going to play this game versus Dustin and Lucas.
Right. And of course, everyone has different goals here, but Erik would love to just open this wide lead. He's already had 45 points over second place and could really, if you get a couple good matches here, push over the 200 mark. On the other end, you have Dustin, who was sitting in the relegation zone not that long ago, had a really nice game at the end of I believe this session, which you can see we're 14 games in, so there have been 2 games played this session. And Dustin's out of there for now, but of course, he's back in any second. And we have the game starting. We start off with Lucas's first dealer with a really nice shape in Mon, a couple floaters, Ricci, Tanya, maybe Pin Fu. Pretty good starting hand. Really want that 7 pin on the right. We have pretty standard Pin Fu type shapes, really like a 4 so. Across the way, we have a Hatsu pair, a Dora, decent other shapes. The key thing is the 3 so is the Dora here, and everyone except the dealer has one. And on the left, we have a possible 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4 Sanshoku, maybe even a distant June-chan, but I think you're just going to play it straightforward. And we see here, Lucas's hand is really developing. Everyone else feels pretty slow. Maybe, of course, the Hatsu could be called. Maybe get some open hands here, but honestly, the hands feel generally slow.
Right. And getting that 9 so there for Lucas, it's like, oh, this hand looks so much like it was Tanyao, but now that 9 in there. Oh, and across the way, we see the third Hatsu fitting in very nicely.
Ooh, interesting option for Lucas. Could cut the 6 pin and take the East Shunton. Could also cut the Penchon 8-9 so, but that 1 makes his hand so much deeper than you'd like. Goes ahead and throws the 6 for now. Of course, if you can draw something connected to, you can always cut the 8-9 so later. But a nice little Ishan 10 on the left. The question is, which shapes do you want? Goes and takes the floating option with the 4 so and 7 so. You'd really like to draw another Dora for Ricci, Pinfu, Dora 2, possibly Peiko.
Right. Though it may be a little hard with 2 of the Dora in other people's hands.
Well, that's what we're seeing. Is other than that, I'm just not seeing any value for honestly anyone here. I mean, I have an Ishan 10 across the way. Which shape do you take? I think you cut the 5 bun here.
And indeed, that's what they do.
You can always call the 1 pin 9 mon or 8 mon, but you really don't want to. Goes ahead and takes it, says we're getting kind of late. Oh, there's that last 3 so. Dama's it instead. Pinfu, Dora 2, 2 so is Ipeiko as well.
Interesting that they decided not to reach here.
Well, you don't have Mongon. Normally, you just reach this, thinking the 2-5 might flow out from someone. But of course, here, oh, and no, there's the Sumo. And of course, the Rishi would have made this into a Mongon. Instead, we'll settle for the 5200. But that's better than nothing for sure. And we move on to East 2. Dealer has a pretty nice hand here. I'd really like to pull on the 8 so for Ricci Pinfu. On the right, we have decent shapes in Mon, and then a whole bunch of floating honors. So it doesn't feel that good. That 7 pin may help because I have double pair in pin. Across the way, we have, again, not particularly great shapes. Kanchan, 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 Penchon, another Penchon added. So you're not really liking that. On the left, we have a pair of Southwind, but that's at the Yakuhai. Maybe a distant 5, 6, 7 Sanchiku. Hard to really get any value. Maybe a distant Itsu. And the Dora here is the Northwind, of which there are one out total, and that is held by Erik on the right.
Oh, and speaking of, there's another one. Dealer chooses to hold on to that north, at least for now. But I would not
Erik,
be
looking at
surprised
this
if it
hand,
leaves the hand quickly.
if you're Erik looking at this hand, are you thinking Chitoy? It's far away from everything. There's an Itsu, but that Dora by itself doesn't do much. I'm trying to figure out what shape you're going for.
Well, out goes the Dora, and out goes the second Dora. So, no Norths being used right now.
At this point, you're probably looking to pull in the Itsu. The 2, 5, 7 Mon would get you there, but dealer says, I'm just going to open for a cheap hand, figuring there isn't much here. And honestly, look at their hand, there really wasn't much.
Right. Sometimes as the dealer, you just say, you know what, let me take this cheap hand, get a mulligan, try to get something better next time. It seems like
Now we are.
hands are just progressing somewhat slowly around the table.
Yeah, the hands were so bad to start with. This is somewhat expected. On the left, we have a possible shift to a 6, 7, 8 Sanchiku, but honestly, that's the only value I see on the table right now.
Well, that 2-mon over for Erik does help a bit.
You'd feel so much better if you'd kept that 9 Mon, though, because then you'd just be a 5 Mon and a 7 Mon away from Itsu. You can even call, and you know one of those is coming out from dealer. Or at least we do. He wouldn't, of course.
Oh, very nice. Dealer is now in Tempai on
We
2,
wouldn't have been able to
6.
call it, but now we have, and that is not a, that's still a Rian Shanten across the way. Figuring the 5 Mon isn't doing anything, I'm going to try and get 1,000 out of this hand as well. So a lot of people thinking we're late, it's hard to develop anything. Let's see what can happen. I think you just cut the 8-6 so because 3 of the 7 so are dead, and as we know, one is stuck in the hand to the left, so that is correct, that is discarded, and just as you'd expect from A1 players. Noticing what's on the table and factoring into the decisions.
And an excellent upgrade there. Gets that 3-sided weight, 258 for the dealer.
We have Tempai on the right, just Dama waiting on 7 Mon, and now we have Tempai on the left, deciding whether to take the He does take the Riichi, is a Shampon on the 8 Mon 1 so. There is one so left. It is very hard for anyone to use because all of the 2 so are out at this point. So if it comes out, you have to figure it's going to be thrown. The dealer sitting with that 258 is by far the most likely to win here. Ooh,
Oh,
and
and
now
there's that
Tempai
7.
across the way. Can you throw the 3? That's the only thing you might be a little concerned about here. Does. We have, is that everyone Tempai now? Yeah, everyone's Tempai at this point. Of course, we
It's
have Erik
pretty.
without a Yaku, so it's pretty bad, but no one
It
here
is
has
amazing
any
though
value.
that it is amazing though that they managed to get into Tempai after everyone starting with such bad hands at the beginning.
Well, that's a corollary of everyone having bad hands is as long as you get the time to draw, you can usually turn it into something usable, especially once you have the calls. And there's the 2-pin. Deals in across the way for the 1,000 heads, the Riichi stick, and Dustin pulls further into the lead, moving at ease 3.
Yeah, I'm sure what stings more is losing your dealership there. That 1,000 points is just nothing.
Yes, decides to take the slightly safer tile against the Ricci, but not always rewarding when you have everyone Tempai in that situation. And Erik has a decent hand here, decent shapes, a pair, a lone Dora. couple draws, special three mon or another Dora pair would pull in would be really nice. On the right, we have pretty standard pin food type chase me, distant Itsu and pin. Across the way, we have an East pair. And that 5 mon will actually connect very nicely for a 4, 5, 7, 8 in mon. And on the left, we have a distant 3, 4, 5 Sanchoku, maybe something connecting to the Dora as well. But the shapes are pretty bad. You're now starting to think even about pairs and cuts the Dora. I don't think I like the Dora cut there. I'd have thrown 7 so instead.
I think I would have done that as well because the 7 so
Gee.
isn't really helping you, and maybe you'll be able to connect the 9 later. Oh, and another north for dealer.
The dealer has the shapes, they're just not finishing. That's the first one, and we're already at turn 6. And gets rid of the Dora now. You're starting to see Dora just pour out as 3 of them are visible now.
Boom.
And this is something you may not expect to see a lot of in A1, but there's been a lot of in A1 is people just figuring this hand is going nowhere. I'm just going to scramble, take my 1,000, move on, because I think anyone at this table can build up for value if given the time.
Right.
Boom.
And it looks like that's what Dustin is doing right here. Just calling, 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 gets into their tempi, just waiting for 7.
Yeah, just the 7 pin. There's 1 out, so 3 in the wall still. Can opt
Yes,
to change the weight here. Question: do you like the shuffle? The 6 mon isn't that much of an improvement. You'd be doing it to get the 8 mon, the 8 pin pair rather, and that's what happens. The 6 mon is locked up. There is 1 8 pin in Erik's hand, so just 1 in the wall. So it goes from a 3 left weight to a 1 left weight. Of course, you can't know that here.
Interesting here that Erik has tossed all those norths.
Erik's folding. He sees nothing. He's open calls, including a Dora. Does not want to throw that east, figuring there aren't too many options for Lucas's hand across the way. So he's just going to hold it and let someone else throw it later.
Oh,
But this is
but
always the problem: is you can always draw the last one yourself. And June's thinking of calling this, but it doesn't actually. Let's see. Yeah, it would have gotten to Tempai if he'd called with the 5, 6 and cut the 4 so. But looking for more value here.
looks like a pause from Erik here, trying to maybe think, oh, can I sneak my way into Tempai here? Keep my dealership. I still don't think that East is going to come out, so it would have to be the pair weight.
Right, and that'd be an interesting option. Of course, we know where they all are, and they're never ever coming out at this point.
Gee.
And June says, "Okay, I've had enough," and takes the Tempai on the 4 so. There are 2 left in the wall. It's a very awkward shape, but may pay off for him. And I see across the way, the weight has changed to a Champon 5 mon 3 so.
Interesting choice there to switch it up.
Yeah, I think I like. Well, okay, I think it doesn't matter here because will the 4 so come out? That's the only question.
Don't.
It doesn't. Deals in for the Tanya only, and Dustin continues to win like this, and we're moving to East 4. And we see a few pairs, maybe a distant 1, 2, 3 Sanshoku, but honestly not great for the dealer. On the right, we have pretty standard Pinfu shapes. 3 completed shapes already with a floating Dora honor, which is Hatsu. So maybe end up Dora Tonki there. Lots of options. Across the way, we see maybe 2, 3, 4 Sanshoku. Really would like a 3-pin draw to pull it in. On the left, we see a pair of Chun, a couple other floating dragons. But I think that's just call and go, unless, of course, you can pair up that Hatsu as well. Which would be very hard to do, but there are still 2 in the wall, and you'd love to have it.
Boom.
And on the left, we see Erik pawning the 5-pin. we'll probably be looking to call the Chun and then maybe go Dora Tonki or get rid of the Hatsu if it gets safer later. We just see Tempai on the right here. Dama waiting on the 3-so is really looking for an upgrade, but I'm honestly not seeing it. I
Right.
think if
I
you
think it
take
would
that
just.
Tempai, you just Ricci.
I agree. It's so early, even if though the weight isn't amazing. Just having that really early Ricci out there would be good. Perhaps they're worried a little bit about all these calls from Eric's side,
Well,
thinking that
Eric's
their
known
hand
for
won't be
going all of
fast
these
enough.
one-han hands that are going to be like this. And of course, if we see the 5-mon or 7-mon, he may just throw the door at this point, figuring there's something to lose. But if you're going to keep that 1-2, so I honestly would like to also keep the 1-mon. Give yourself the option for an Ipeco upgrade. I don't like the Dama just waiting on the 3-so here. You haven't done anything. And yeah, there comes that Hatsu from Erik.
Yeah, so Lucas continuing this Dama.
Look at Erik's hand. Anything except a 1 or a 3-mon improves the shape there. And you can make an argument the 1 or 3-mon would also improve it.
Right, this can easily, well, maybe not easily, but it could shift into Toy Toy.
Yeah, and
Couple
you'd
more
love to
calls.
take that. Of course, if the 5 or 7 calls, you're going to dump the 9, and then you'd be waiting to see if the 1 or 3 pairs up. Okay, and finally we see a break of tempi from Lucas, cutting the 2-so and probably the 1-so later.
Oh, and it looks like across the way there is another Tempai.
Each. Dama. Okay, now it's Ricci. Well, let's see. You should be discarding the 3-so there if you're going to do that. But in the meantime, it is now a Sumogiri Ricci for Ricci, Pinfu, Ipeco, and Tanya if you want on the 4, and not Tanya, of course, on the 1.
Right, and looking at the field here, we see 3 of the 1s and 1 of the 4s out.
Right, but that 1 may come out from Erik if he can call for Tempai here. And interesting for Lucas is trying to maneuver towards Tempai, but having broken the 9-pin, probably just giving up at this point. This is where that Sumagiri Ricci starts being a little suspicious. Throws the 3-so and gets away with it, but a lot of players will do that because, oh, well, now I have a Suji trap, so I should throw it. That's always a very dangerous tile.
Right. Still no, we have not seen any more 1s or 4s coming into people's hands. Oh, and there's the 1.
Yeah, you'll take that Ricci Sumo Ipeco, Pinfu. And the
Ooh, and
Aura 2,
2
and just
Ura.
like that, June's in first place. Of course, Dustin pays out the 6,000 as dealer, and that completely shakes up the standings for this game. And dealer here has a 789 Sanshoku, probable path to Junchan or maybe Chanta as well. Great starting hand. On the right, we have decent shapes, also kind of a Junchan style hand. You see completed shape in upper Mon and 1, 3, and 2 suits across the way. We see pretty standard Pinfu Tanya shapes. And on the left, we see a couple pairs of 5, 6 Mon. So maybe an Ipeco there. But you also have an awkward 1, 3, 3, 4 shape in pin. You'd really like the 2. But interestingly, the Dora is 6 pin. It's a really easy Dora to use, and no one has any.
Right. Funny how that works out here. Ooh, and we see that call there. So locking in the Sanshoku. Unfortunately, can't get the Junchan because they happen to pair up on a non honor
Yeah, if you
or
draw
terminal.
one, if you draw one mon, I think you just cut the two mon and take the Ishanta. There's so much of a value difference. The 1500 is not what you're going for. Oh, and that six is just disgusting. You can't take it, and you have to throw the Dora back for this lousy one on hand.
Thankfully, there was no one who could actually use that.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Everyone would love to pwn. If you knew dealer had a 1500 point hand, you'd love to have that situation.
It is funny because everyone's hand could accept that Dora. It just hasn't popped up yet.
Dong.
Oh,
Well,
and there
there's
goes
the
the
three
three.
pin deals in for the Sanshoku only. And Lucas says, I didn't see much value in this hand, so I'm just going to take it and move on. I wonder about that call in the first place, though. Without the Junchan, that's just so cheap. I think I like going for a little more value. But regardless, we move to South 1-1, and dealer has decent shapes. Of course, we love to pull in the 7 so, maybe even 2 times for Riichi Pinfu. On the right, we have pretty standard Pinfu, Tanyao type shapes. Would love a 3 so. Of course, that is the Dora. Across the way, we have a pair of 9-pin decent other shapes in pin, but honestly, the hand needs work to come together. A very, very distant 456 Anshiku, which has helped immensely with that 6-pin draw, but you're still a long way off. And on the left, yuck. You have a 5-6 Mon, which is the only good shape in the hand. Other than that, Kanchan, Kanchan, Penshan, Penshan, Ryankan. So,
Yeah,
a bunch
not
of
great.
really bad shapes. Everyone has bad shapes. That seems to be happening to this table a lot, where everyone's just terrible starting hands.
Well, at least everyone has equally terrible starting hands. Well, maybe not equally terrible, but not great. Though that Dora draw there is very helpful.
Yeah, Lucas pulls that in, decides to cut the 8-pin now. Kind of getting a little greedy. Would love to pull another 2-3. Ooh, for the Peiko Dora 2. Great draw. I think he cut 6 so here.
And so they do.
And if you end up on the Peiko weight, I think you just reach. No one's really going to throw a Dora here, are they?
I doubt it.
Goes in and gives up the wider shape in pin with the 344 doing Sasaki Yuri there. And this is because also with the 4567 Mon, if you connect something to it, you can always go back and cut the 1-2. So there's no requirement that you end up waiting on the Ipeco Dora, especially if you have a read that other people are using. But right now, there's only one being used.
Right. And I think that the what
Oh.
you lose in Han, you gain in just being able to complete the hand a lot faster.
Oh, yeah, you'd love to be able to have a 3-sided wait over a Penchon waiting on Dora, which you know it's either you draw it or it's not going to happen.
Right. And it's only one Han decrease because you'll pick up the Pinfu even though you lose the Ipeco and one Dora. So
Interesting that
it's not an
June
awful
didn't
change.
call. Interesting that June didn't call the 9 so there. I'm not sure how you're going to complete this hand. You could always cut the 3 mon and take any of those other tiles as your pair later. But when you just have at most 2 completed shapes and you're already open, you generally want to call and shut the hand down.
Right. Especially as this hand is going on. We're already in that third row.
We now have a Dama on the left for Tanyao Dora. Would love to upgrade to the potential Sanshuku, but it's just not there. Oh, wait, my bad. That was a 3-5-5. I thought that was a 5-5-5. Now it's Tenpai.
Yes, on the 4. Oh, and there's that 4.
4-mon comes out first. Yeah, it doesn't fit in that hand at all, but it very well may come out anytime now.
Interesting choice when the dealer there decides to toss that for getting back into the 3-4-4 shape.
Well, Lucas is generally going to be defensive when possible. And here you see the call for K10, figuring it's kind of like you just don't want to deal in, don't expose yourself to any damage, but you're not going to fidget. Ooh, draws the Dora pair there on the left, so waiting on 5 Mon 3 So. We just have two people waiting on 3 So, but Lucas does not have a Yaku, just going for the
Gee.
K10 here. And speaking of K10, we see a call across the way for an Ishan 10.
Right, but there's not many tiles left to get there.
I don't think you can call the 7 Mon.
Gee.
No. Oh, but they choose
Because
to.
the problem would be the 4E10. So you cut the 8 men here? Yeah. I'm not sure that's a better way. I don't think it really is. Ooh,
Right,
we
I don't
could see
think
a con here to shut down the rest of the table.
last minute con.
I think you throw the 7 pin and just take Tempai, waiting on the 3 So. Yeah, it does decide to take the Tempai. With two draws left, absolutely makes sense.
But what about the con? We live for the con.
Well, as much as I'd like the con to break Tempai, I also like getting the 1,000 points and not having to pay no 10. That's what happens. We have three players Tempai, and we're on South 1-2. Dealer has very nice shapes, really nice shapes.
Finally, a good starting hand.
Wow. Three completed, a pair, and extended shape in Mon. If this doesn't finish first, something strange is going on. We'll get to that because the hand across may be yet. On the right, we have again, that is another Ishan 10 for Ricci Pinfu. Probably not any extra value, but you'd take it. Across the way, we see
Boom.
good shapes in Mon. And the question is, how greedy do you want to be? Throws the Hatsu for now, not going for the Honitsu, just looking for a way to move the hand along. Maybe we'll take that choice later. You do have a Dora as well. And we see June here having to decide. Throws the 8 Mon there. But the hand to pay attention to is still the dealer. That is now Ryanma Ishan 10. I guess we didn't talk about the hand on the left, but it has decent shapes, just not compared to the rest of this table.
Right, it's a hand that needs
Yeet.
more time, and time is not going to be on their side right here. Dealer reach on a 5-8 wait for Beach Pinfu.
Yeah, it's just the Rishi Pinfu, but you'll see a lot of 5s and 8s out already. All the 5s are gone. 2 of the 8s are gone. 3 of the 8s are gone because there's one discarded. So there is only 1 8 left in the wall. Even for a Ryanman Ricci, it's just 1 in the wall. Really rough.
Yeah, it's amazing that such a nice, quick hand would have such terrible waves when you look at what everyone else is doing.
And June could have pushed a little harder, but seems to be largely folding at this point.
And there's another 8.
Ooh, the question is, what do you throw that's safe? And the answer is nothing safe. Throws the relatively safe 8 pin. Then I have June in Ishan 10. Would love to draw the 6 So or 8 So. Oh, wait, no, they're still missing a head, so not quite Ishan 10.
Right.
Had plenty of head candidates earlier, but cut the 1 So pair.
All right, so it's interesting to watch this progress, knowing that the board dealers' weights are completely dead.
Well, you see that 8 Mon kind of floating out by itself for Dustin, and that's something to be concerned about.
Boom.
But there's the
Oh, but
4. We did see Tempai across the way for the 2,000. We also get the Ricci stick into Homba, and Erik moves from 4th place to a relatively secure 3rd, but it's only South 2, plenty of time left. Dealer has Penchon, Conchon, Penchon. Ugh, not great. Lots of shapes, but they're all bad. On the right, we have a nice little shape in So coming together. Maybe an Itsu, maybe even a Chinitsu, but that's probably a bit of distance away. Across the way, we have a pair of Southwind, which is Yakuhai now. Great shapes in pin, and wow, that is now really wide Ishan 10. On the left, we have decent shapes, but you have a bunch of extra pairs with a 9 so, 1 pin, and 9 pin. Also, floating Dora, but it just seems so slow compared to what we're seeing across the way.
Well, we can't speak too soon. That dealer hand from last time that looked so good and so fast
Well,
didn't
it
end
was
up
fast.
getting
You
there.
got the tempi really nicely. It's just when all but one of your outs are dead, it takes a while for that to come. And that is not tempi, but wow, that is wide. My goodness, what
Ooh,
is that?
excellent
Eat.
fill.
Oh yeah, we have Ricci on the right for Ricci only waiting on the 8 so. Couldn't get the Itsu out of it, and I think we're going to see the south call here. Ooh, doesn't call it, instead folds. I think I just push and throw the 2 pin. You have a 3-sided weight with a 3 pin, 6 pin, 7 so. And even in second place here, that's not that dangerous a push, especially when you see so many of those 3 pin yourself. Ooh.
Eat.
Now, do you push it? Yes. So another reach has been called, waiting on just 3 mon.
Yeah,
We
we'll
see
be
2 3
reaching
mon in
only.
we
And
see
there
two
comes
3
the
mon in people's
Dora.
hands.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I'd be glad to get rid of it. But there's
Don't.
the
Oh, there it
3!
is. Richie no me.
Ricci, but you still get the 2,000 from the sticks. And now all of a sudden, Erik and Lucas are again really close in third place. Lucas is West Wind here, but Erik is dealer with a pretty nice hand here. You'll have to draw the 3 so Dora, but those are beautiful shape in. So we even have a potential 4-5-6 Sanchiku. On the right, we have pretty nice shapes in Mon and Pin. You also have an extra 6 so floater, possible 4-5-6, 6-5-7, 6-7-8 Sanchiku, all sorts of options. But the North Wind and the Chun won't help it. Across the way, we do see a Dora draw now here, but the important thing is the Shaw pair, which I imagine is going to get
Pump.
called here. And it is. My question is which weight and how greedy you want. I think you just play direct and just throw the 1 mon, and that's exactly what happens. The hand on the left is there's a distant Itsu and Mon, but probably just pin food type, maybe a 3-4-5 Sanchiku. But especially given how fast Lucas is going, probably just anything is going to be sufficient.
And it looks like in the meantime, dealer did draw that nice Dora fitting in that hand.
You have all those bulging shapes. The problem is you can't call with that 1 pin pair unless you back into the Sanchiku somehow. And Lucas is doing the same type of thing that Erik likes to just take the quick 1,000 or 2,000 point hands to shut down the rest of the table. But that 2 so draw massively helps Erik's hand here. It's not quite it's not quite Ishan 10, but that is a ridiculously wide shape with the 4-4-5-7-7-8 so.
Right, and at this point, you were just praying for that Itsu.
Question is, do you call for it? And I wonder if the 6 comes out, I'd probably call it. I don't think the 9 does you much good. But
Let's
we're
see on the
starting to see these
right
hands really
here.
develop. Yeah,
Yeah, that hand
possible
is
5,
just
6, 7, 8 Sanshoku. That is a beautiful big hand. Could call for Tempai, but I absolutely don't. There's just so much value. And on the left, we have Headless Ishan 10.
so it looks like Lucas across the table, maybe trying to get more of
Love
a
the 3, 4,
Sanshoku
5.
hand, 3 4
Yeah, you
5.
get that up and some extra value here. The problem is you're running out of time. And now I think you just go headless and cut maybe 1 pin. Cuts the 5 pin instead.
ち
Interesting.
And
So we have a
Erik
Chi.
says, I'm not finishing this
Chi.
normally. I'm going to call and see if I have an option. Ooh, and now we have Dora Tonki across the way. Okay, that's the thought. I like that play. Yeah, Eric's just going for the open Itsu at this point, figuring the hand will not finish as
1.
is. We have Tempai on the right. This will be Ricci, Tanyao, Sanchuku. If that 7 comes out, and it very well might from Erik, unless he just folds here. Oh, but
Oh,
there's
but
the
there's that
Dora
Dora.
Chonky, and it deals in for the 3,900 and the Ricci stick, pushing Dustin under 30,000. We move to South 4. Only June over 30K right now. And Dealer has a couple Ryoncons, decent shapes in Mon, but you also have a bunch of floating honors that don't really help. The fast hand looks like one on the right, especially if you draw the 3-pin there. Not much value, but you have a Dora, so you can make something with it. You'd love to get over that 30K across the way. Now that's a pretty bad hand unless you decide to brute force the Honitsu, although that Shaw pair up will let you call for a Yaku. And on the left, pretty standard Pinfu type shape. You do have that Penchon 8-9 so. I think the interesting hand is how does June play this one? The hand's really slow. I think you're just calling anything here.
Right.
Ooh,
Sometimes that's how
9
it
mon.
goes.
9 mon. Okay, throws the north. I definitely want the option to go for the Hanitsu here. And I don't think the 9 mon or the 1 mon really helped this hand much. Ooh, we have a big draw on the 3-pin there on the right. That potentially will be a 3-sided wait for Ricci, Dora, and possible Pinfu.
Dealer not progressing their hand at all for a little while.
Well, and that's the other
That
problem with having
helps.
those Ryoncon shapes is if anyone reaches here, what do you do? Because those tiles are all terrifying to have in your hand.
Right, and you're so close to 30K. You would really like to get over if you
Punk.
Yeah,
can.
you're absolutely calling that. Across the way, you're going to have Ishan 10. We'll just go for the cheap hand. And considering the currents, ooh, that's a great draw. Now I believe Ryan Shan 10 for Cheetoy, but a lot of options. I probably got 6, though. And another pair across the way. I think you cut 6-pin.
Yeah, the only other option would be to go maximum greed and try to turn
1.
that into Toy Toy.
Yeah, and it's a long way here. I think you got the Tumon here that gives you Ryoncon and the Kanchan as well. Instead, decides to cut the 4-6. Ooh, and now we have Tempai across the way waiting on the 1-pin 5-mon.
Looks like the ones are dead. One in the pond and one pretty
1.
firmly. Oh, one very firmly in Lucas's hand.
Yeah, so the Ricci on a 3-sided wait now. For Ricci, Dora, and possible Pinfu if you want on the 5-8. Winning on the 6, though, is going to be very
Punk.
hard as they're already 2 discarded. We have Tempai for Dealer as well, with 2
Punk.
Dora waiting on 7-mon. And everyone just trying to get something. Decides not to Con the 2-mon.
Sumo.
And there's
Oh,
the
and there's that
Sumo,
8.
Ricci, Sumo, Pinfudora.
And an Ura? No Ura.
No aura, but is enough to get to second place and over 30,000. So that ends up being a 15-point swing there. We have June with the first, 23.4. Lucas in second with 7.4. Dustin in third with minus 8.5. And Erik being pulled closer to the pack with minus 22.3.
The first, fourth, I think, at the very least in this season.
In this
Also in the
season, you did have one during the regular season in the Inaugural Beta League,
yeah,
but
but that's
it's
still an
very
excellent
rare,
streak.
very rare for Erik to take a last place, and absolutely impressive what he's done so far. But the other part of this is that Lucas is the cut line. So any closer he gets to everyone else, he immediately starts concerning people like Bishan, me, Max, and Ju.
And it looks like the next game is going to start, or our players have
In a
already
couple
started.
minutes. Yeah, they've started.
Couple
Of course, we're
minutes.
on a 5-minute delay as Tenno will not want you seeing them live. And there's also, for the same reason, a 5-minute delay for streaming, just to make things fair. You're not spying anyone, giving any advice, all that type of stuff. Very standard for serious competition. And from the clock, it says this will be starting in 1 minute. But of course, let's say the two storylines coming out of the first match are Erik starting to get pulled back. Now has 15 games, so you see Steve has 4 games potentially to catch him, and Erik only has one more this session. And Dustin dropping a little bit down because of that South Four, and is getting closer to the cut line. And Lucas, who was sitting below the cut line, is now the cut line himself at the minus 64.9. So, very interesting battle between those two specifically. June may be out of it for this season. You're starting to run out of games, and that's a huge deficit.
Right. At this point, you almost wonder if what you need to do is just push any Yakuman you see.
You need to be considering it because you don't really want these plus 20 or plus 30 first. You need a plus 70 or a plus 80 at this point to even get within range of serious competition. And you still have 9 games of luck. But honestly, if you're winning 20 points per game, averaging a plus 20, which is ridiculous, you're still going to be at minus 30, which is pretty close. But we have the game starting now, and Dealer has a really nice hand here. Pinfu, you do have a Dora, so if another tune comes in, it looks great. Ooh, we see a Hatsu call across the way. We'll get to that bit on the right. We have pretty standard Pinfu type shapes as well. Across the way, we have a Hatsu call, an Anko of Non. Maybe even Toy Toy here with the 9-mon pair. Need some other stuff to pair up. Probably not going the Hanitsu because of the 9-mon pair, but you have to consider it. And on the left, we have bunch of pairs. Tuso, Forso, Tumon. There are so many options here. Maybe even the distant, beloved Sanjuku Doko one, too.
You always love to see the donut.
But the two primary hands here are the dealers and across the way for Dustin. But with some good draws, of course, Lucas on the right could easily enter Tempai quickly.
Looks like those Red Dragon. That is the only one we've seen so far, and it finally comes out.
And June says, okay, I've had enough of this. Gets rid of it now. Is not quite Ishanten. Almost, I kind of like keeping it because if you're going to go Chitoy, you'd want it in the hand. If you're going a regular hand, you obviously would like to keep it and pair it up, especially over this pay pair, which does nothing for you. Blocks any ability to call, blocks any sort of value from this hand except for the potential Toy Toy. And I think if you're going to keep a pairs hand, you maybe cut the 4-so or the 7-mon, and if you're not, and I probably wouldn't, you either cut the north pairs themselves or the 3-so or 8-mon. In the meantime, we have that Ricci on the right for Ricci Pinfu waiting on 5-8. We see 3 discard, and it turns out that's all there are. Everything else is in the wall. No one has any 5s or any 8s in their hand right now.
Right, and for most players, they can either fit a 5 or an 8 in their hand, but not both.
We're going to see how aggressively Dustin pushes this, kind of working around it. And this is the other problem with that tune. If you had one tune, now you're in a position to start pushing against this. But because you discarded it early, now it's kind of stuck in your hand. You definitely want to discard it with one out against Arichi.
Oh, and across the table, got that other 9-mon there.
Ooh.
Another
Oh,
complete Anko.
Dustin, I think I'm pushing the 9-so or the 9-pin there. Would add Ishan 10 really good weight for the potential Honitsu on top of everything else. Instead, decide to play a little bit safe with the Gimbutsu 7-mon, and as a result, is just kind of awkward and cheap now. You would have a 3-4 and then a 7-9-9-9. So the 7 or 8 fits in. And this 8 doesn't do you any good. We'll
Right.
see
It's
if
so
this is a
tricky
hard
to have in your
fold.
hand.
Instead throws the relatively safe 9 mon, and that'll buy a bunch of turns. The question is, if Tempai happens, will the 8 so be pushed anyway? Oh, this could be a call for Tempai waiting on 5-8 pin, and does.
相撲
But instead, that causes the sumo to be drawn on the right for Richi Sumo Pinfu. No aura, but Lucas jumps out to first place. And we move to East 2. Dealer has a decent hand here. Shapes look, again, kind of decent. There's distant 3-4-5 or 2-3-4 Sanshoku, but you have a bunch of extra floaters and a couple isolated 9s. On the right, we have nice little Pinfu, maybe Tanya if you get some shifting. Now even a distant Itsu in pin, but seems fast and cheap, honestly, unless you pull a Dora in, which is the 7-mon, which could very well fit into this hand. Across the way, we have pretty standard Pinfu Tanya shapes. You'd also have a Dora 7-mon as well. And on the left, we have a shape that gives you a lot of options. You have pairs all over the place, an Anko of 9 so. You could even go Ipeco in lower pin or even a distant San Anko Dora. But he does here, cutting the 9 from the better shape, deciding to more or less brute force this into a Tanya hand, gives the option to open later. And there's that 7-mon Dora. All of a sudden, that looks like the best hand on the table.
Right. There's a potential of Ipeco there across the table with the 5-6-7, but other than that,
In the meantime, Eric's hand is looking really nice too.
getting more pairs.
More pairs. I think you just cut the 8 here. You don't really want it. If you draw a Dora, you just go cheat toy. Instead, cuts the 5, keeps the wider shapes. The problem is, I don't really like a 4 or an 8 weight. If you do end up going for that cheat toy, we have that is not Tempai because you don't have a head across the way. Instead, cuts the 6. This gives a lot of options later, but you may end up on the 2-5. And this is the problem with cutting it is now you have to cut the 8 pin. If you'd have cut the 2 pin earlier, you could have just reached with the 5 or the 7.
Well, decides to
Ooh,
keep
and
the
now we have
8.
Ishanten on the left for Suwanko.
Ooh, very exciting, very exciting.
So this
Looking
is
around the table, we see one of those 3-mon is in Lucas's hand, and one of the 9-mon is across the
Each.
table. Oh, but there's that Ricci.
9 mon is discarded, so it's never coming out. Oh, but I think you have to reach it
Oh, but
regardless.
yeah.
Yeah, there's one 3-mon left in the wall. Everything else is dead. But in the meantime, the other side is the 5-7 pin. There is one 5-mon discarded and one 7-mon in the hand. So it's a 1 versus 2. But this would be dealer for Ricci only versus June on the left for Suwanko. Oh,
Oh
there's the 7.
no!
Deals into the Ricci. No aura, but oh, that's just heartbreaking. That's the type of hand that June really needs to win to be able to start closing this gap. And that's just heartbreaking.
I think that sums up Mahjong in a nutshell. We have a Ricci no Mi hand versus a Yakuman hand, and the Ricci no Mi won.
Yeah, and that's just painful. You can't say anything else about it. But we have to move on. East 2, dealer has a pretty nice shape for a 6-7-8 or 7-8-9 Sanshoku. On the right, we have a pair of South, which is the Yaku High, maybe a distant Honitsu. You have the 2-pin, which may connect to a 3-pin Dora later. Decent shapes other than that, maybe distant Itsu in So. Across the way, beautiful hand that's, I believe, Ishanten already for Richi Pinfu. Maybe possibly Peiko upgrade. On the left, we have decent shapes, but feels a little slow compared to the rest of the table. And looking at it a little bit more, the hand's just kind of bad. You'd really like to pull the 3, 5, 7, and 9 in. When you're talking about that many draws, it's pretty bad. There's the 9, so you could at least consider opening for the Itsu, but it's a long way off. In the meantime, we have an Ishan 10 on the right for Dustin. Would need the south and then the 6 so. The question is, how greedy do you want to be going for that Honitsu?
Oh, and that definitely helps.
You just go for it. Yeah,
Getting
just
that
forget it
Hatsu.
here.
And speaking of helping, we have a Ricci up there. Ricci Pinfu, I believe. That's it.
So waiting on the 2, 5. Of course, the 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 left in the wall. And Dustin, again, just kind of isn't willing to push. Of course, with that, it's, ooh, interesting draw now. Now, if you get Tempa, you just probably throw the 4. And it may come out right here. We'll see if Lucas forces it. Instead, no, just folding properly, not exposing any danger yet. May yet throw it, but you still have a 3 pin if you've probably given up this hand, which from those shapes suggests is the case. Oh, and there's the corollary.
Oh,
Is now Justin's completely out of this hand.
yeah, there's that 5.
The tiles keep telling Dustin, you should consider pushing, and he keeps saying no.
No, I won't allow it.
Well, and now is rewarded because that would have been the deal in tile if he'd been pushing.
So I believe that's 7 of the winning tiles accounted for.
3 on the left, 1 in either other hands, and 1 discarded. So yeah, 1 left.
Just one more 5-mon. Oh, and there
And
it
there
is.
it is. And if he stays disciplined and cuts the 5, so yeah, then that's going to be the end of this hand. But honestly, when you have Rishi Pinfu, you'd love to get 3,000 out of the hand.
Right. You wouldn't be sad about that. Maybe sad if you were to get some Ura, but
Yeah, but
we'll
you can
still
never
take
know
that.
that. And the corollary is it means no one else is fighting against you. That's the power of the early Richi. Ooh, we do see Dora cut. Of course, it is Gimbutsu, and there are 2 out from the dealer, but it always feels scary just in case someone else backed into Tempa to throw it like that. And that will be it. Erik will pull in the 3,000. We'll net 2,000 in the hand from the Richi stick earlier, and it is East 3 with 2 Homba and 1 Richi stick. And dealer has nice potential Itsu hand. There are some very distant Sanshuku, but I think you're just going and hoping you draw Mon tiles here, needing the 4, 6, and 8 Mon. On the right, we have a beautiful hand. That is already Ishan 10. No value, though. Across the way, good shape in Pin, decent shape in Mon, and a bunch of other stuff that just doesn't fit. Really need the 3 Mon, and there's the 3 Mon. Now you're at least dreaming of the Itsu. On the left, we have 2 south, which is the Dora, so maybe a Chitoy hand here, possible Toy, but it's going to be hard to finish otherwise. No matter what you do with it, it's going to be hard to utilize all these shapes.
Oh,
Ooh, that's a way to
that's
fix it,
nice.
though. Yeah. Well, now you have to actually think about the cheat toy. Of course, if Chun comes, you call it because it'd be the last one. But if anything else comes, you have to think long and hard about whether you're going to take it or not.
Right. And since there's already one Chun in, oh, and there's another pair. So I
He's
think
done
at this
that.
point,
So, yeah, I think you're just basically committed. I think it's a 3 so because there's one out already. Not that the 3 so looks good or bad on the rest of the table. Just, you know there's one less to draw.
exactly.
Ooh, that's that'd be a hell weight. So I agree with just discarding now. If there are 2 left, that's actually a good tile to wait on. And of course, if you kept it and then Dustin draws and throws it back, you well, that's useless. And we have a very wide Ishan 10 for Erik on the right. And there's
Oh,
that
that
chew.
Chun,
Very tempted.
Home.
and
Yeah, I don't
decides to
think you
call
can
it.
get away from that one. Does take a greedier play with the 8 so, but given so many of the
Each.
9 so discard, it makes sense. We have a Ricci on the right for Ricci Hatsu waiting on
Home.
the 5-8. And of course, we see those fives are going to be locked up in the hand to the left. 5 so is completely dead.
Each.
8 so. Ooh, we see another Ricci. This one from the dealer on 6-9. And that may come out. So
Oh, there's
I
that
guess we go
south.
back to, yeah, you call that instantly. And I think,
Call it.
Home.
yeah, you call. The question is which weight. And decides to take the 3-6. The Ryanman against two Ricci's makes sense. Oh no, but there's the 6.
Oh,
Deals
that's
into the
rough.
dealer for Ricci Pinfu. And the aura, ouch. And just like that, Lucas is knocked back under 30,000 and Dustin's in first place. That's really rough. I like the play to take the Ryanman there. The Hanemon isn't that big of a difference just when you consider the fact there are two Ricci 6 out in the middle. You want that good weight. But if the wall decides you're not getting it, that's what's going to happen. And you have to push there.
You absolutely have to push.
But
With
we're
such a
now in
nice
East
hand and those sticks.
We're now in East 3-3, and dealer has distant 6-7-8 or 7-8-9 Sancho, a lone Dora 9 so. There's an Onko of 6 so, but feels slow. On the right, we have a whole bunch of pairs. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, including an Onko of 4 pin. Maybe Tanya shifted well, maybe to Peiko. Now actually Ishan 10 free Peiko. Across the
Home.
way, we have two Dora, and there's the call of the 8 pin. I think Dustin's just going for the Tanya here, seeing the 3 Homba in the middle and saying 2,400 doesn't sound bad, especially with the rest of this garbage. If we can back into Toy Toy, even better. Across the way, we see decent shapes. We have Ryoncon in 2 suits. Then you have a 1-3-5-7, and so I feel the hand's getting worse and worse. On the left, we have
Home.
decent shapes, bunch of completed stuff, but one of those hands did just a little bit off. Maybe an open 3-4-5 Sanchoku as well.
So we saw that Erik decided to call there, locking in that toy.
Yeah, Eric's going full Toy Toy, and Dustin's going Tanya, but would love to upgrade to Toy Toy. This is something that tends to happen in Toy Toy hands, is one person gets it and everyone else kind of says, you know what, I think everything's kind of pairing up. Maybe I should do it too. And
Oh, an
now gets a
excellent draw
huge
there with that
upgrade on that.
4.
That 4-mon helps this hand immensely. Of course, you figure the 7 probably isn't going to be used given the 8 call, but if it comes, you'll take it. Meanwhile, across the way, we now have an Ishan 10. Should cut the 7 so here. You want the Sanchoku
Home.
option, and does. But that's exactly what Erik wanted. And now we have Tempai across the way. Takes the Dama on Sanchoku Dora 2, waiting on 5 pin. There are 3 left in the wall, and fortunate for Lucas that he draws them to connect to that 5.
So what is your
Each.
opinion here on? Oh, I was going to ask what your opinion would be on Ricci versus Dama.
Really like the Dama here. It's a bad way to tell that's very likely to come out. Your upgrades are basically useless because of that 8-pin call. So I don't see that you've gained any advantage with the Ricci here. This is the case where I'll say, sure, go ahead and take the Dama. With bad weight Mongon, especially on 9 or turn 9 or 10, you're not gaining much by throwing the stick in. But this is the type of thing that could cause someone like Erik to, does he keep the Tempai? Doesn't, throws the 2 so. There's the 5. I think you just changed the weight though. You just throw the 7. I don't think you're throwing the 5. You could, but I think I'd throw the 7. Instead does
Oh,
deals into the Sanshuku.
Don't.
Ricci, Sanshuku Dora 2.
no
No,
aura.
so is 8,000 anyway. And if you were Dama, maybe someone deals in earlier, but I don't really see a big advantage in throwing the stick in there. You're not increasing your win rate much, and I think you just got lucky that the dealer didn't switch to the Kanchan 6-pin weight. But regardless, we move to East 4, and dealer has a nice shape in pin, including a Dora, which is 7 pin. Other than that, decent, but really need to connect stuff. Especially a 3 amount would help. On the right, we have a Chun pair. Pretty good shapes as well. Not much value. Of course, you'd love to pull on that 7 pin Dora across the way. Possible 6, 7, 8 Sanshoku. Other than that, maybe just a Tanyao. Perhaps Pin Fu, but you're starting to get too many pairs for that. And on the left, we have a pair of Norths, which is the Yakuhai. And I'm not. Ooh, 7 pin. What do you do here? I think you got
You,
two mon, two mon. Instant cuts the 9 mon, 9 mon.
oh, and fills up that one so Anko over there on the right.
Yeah, that hand's starting to get very expensive all of a sudden. And a very wide Ishunten, maybe even a. Well, you can't get the 456 Sanshoku from it yet. Oh, I don't like cutting the 4 so there. That's such a wide hand. Because I'd love to be able to cut the 5 later and then cut the 1 for potential Arichi Sanshoku Chun. But meanwhile, we have dealer really starting to develop this hand. You're going to have an extra pair somewhere, though, so end up cutting the 1 pin pair later. And see, there's the problem by cutting the 4. Is that
Right.
9 didn't buy you anything extra.
Oh,
Ooh.
completes that Ipe Ko. Very, very nice.
Oh, and see, this should be Richi Chun waiting on 2 5 so on the right. I think that's just efficiency and stuff that should have made attention to more earlier. Now you can call here for Tempai if you're really scared, but the 4 7 looks really bad right now.
Right. And the hand could potentially transition to Suanko.
Oh yeah, there are plenty of upgrades for this hand. Interesting. Dustin now connects to the Dora. What do you do? Do you cut the north pair? That's what I'd go for.
I think decides on the
The
2.
2 mon
Also
pair. The
acceptable.
only concern here is some Arichis, because you're right around that time when anyone could reach you at any time. Oh, there you
Eat.
go. The other
Such as
problem with
yourself,
the
for
north,
instance.
well, there's the other problem with the north is you now do not have Pinfu.
That is true.
Ooh, what do you throw here for June?
Don't.
Not that. Richi and
Oh,
Patsu Dora
no but
peels
still,
in
that
for
hurts.
5,200, and Dustin's back over 30K and in first place. We moved to South Round. And dealer has distance 789 Sanchiku, a lone Haku Dora, but this hand needs a little bit of help. On the right, we have possible 678 Sanchiku. This hand would really also like the 7 so and 3 so across the way. Yuck.
That
You
about
have the
sums it up.
lone Dora, but yuck. On the left, we have a non pair, so that will be Yakuhai and a lone Dora, but you see 3 people with that lone Dora, so it's one of these stalemates where who gets rid of it first, and then all of them come out at once.
Having a little callback to our not great starting hands of last Tanshan.
These are all hands that feel decent but not good. Man, the hands we were having in the East round of the first Hanja, those are genuinely garbage. And here's the pair up of the last Haku in the wall, so we know what that hand's going to be.
Right. It'll be interesting to see if and when those other Haku come out.
Some other options. You can just start calling.
Home.
You can also bluff this into another type of hand with the potential 1, 2, 3 Sanshoku. Ooh, I think that's 7 mon here because you have such a wide acceptance now. And does. Well, the question is still, when do those last Haku come out?
May come out soon.
And now we have it not quite Ishanten, but a really wide Ryanshan on the right. Oh, we're starting to see a lot of pairs now for Dustin.
Chi.
I think Eric's decided to go Dorotonki at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. Which
Because
is
you're a
going
little
to help him.
suspicious when it's turn 7 and you haven't seen anything. Turn 8 and you haven't seen anything.
Right. I think it's more likely that the Haku's going to come out of the dealer's hand if it's going to
Yeet.
come out.
Tempai on the right for Ricci Tanya waiting on
Gee.
6 pin and 8 pin. And sure enough, there it is. We have Dora Tonki on the left for non Dora 2. That would be 5200 with all the foo in there because the closed Onko 7 pin. But the question is, who's ever going to throw it in this situation? Kind of hoping that it's the Ricci here that ends up throwing it, but we know that's not the case.
Right. The dealer's probably going to end up, if they get into Tempai,
Uh-oh, do we have a
just,
disconnect? Yep, that's a
oh no.
disconnect. Okay, nothing's happened. It's fine. Oh, it's because there was an actual disconnect. And oh no, that's scary. Because in Tenho, ooh, could even see a
Con?
con here.
Con?
Oh, that's so scary. Do you have the guts? Doesn't says, okay, you know what? That's fine. I'll deal it if I deal in. And especially, this is wonder if you're seeing the disconnect, you're not as worried about throwing it now because in Tenno, even if you have auto roan on, it does not count as a win here.
It would be interesting if you use that as an excuse to con, though. You're like, oh, the dealer's
You
not going to be able to
absolutely
get that
can,
early.
but thankfully Lucas is back now, and there is still 1 8 pin in the wall.
And it looks like dealer has decided to fold out. Not surprising with
Well,
that
Dealer
lone
didn't really
Haku.
have a hand worth fighting. Now Dustin, on the other hand, does and pushes. The Forso's a little bit of a push, not a super aggressive one though, but could be Tempai any second here.
We're going to see the call. No.
Now, that call doesn't make you Tempai. It's a wider Ishunten, but you don't have to throw any more pin tiles than you have to.
Very fair.
Because they just look scary at this point. Like that.
Like that.
There's the 4, which came out earlier. And of course, we see if there's Tempai, either that 6 or that 8's going to come out. So, well, now you don't have to worry about it. And we're going to have 2 players Tempai here.
Pausing a bit
Erik
on that
does not like
Formon.
that 4. Feels really bad about it. He's running out of Suji at this point. Does call it, and there's a hesitation. And I've been in a situation, and your heart just races in that situation. But it's actually safe, and we move to South 2. And this game is so close now. First is under 32,000.
Right. And almost any hand can shift these rankings right here.
Yeah, and you have 1,300 in the middle. So that alone will help. But regardless, we have dealer hand really nice here. You also have an extra floating Dora 9. So you probably just want to get rid of it, go Tanyao. But on the right, we have decent shapes. 2 Shunten for Tempai. Could get closer, but the question is, do you want to be super aggressive? Got the 9 pin later and just go for Tanyo as well. Across the way, we have a few pairs, but honestly, the hand looks bad compared to the rest. On the left, a distant potential 789 Sanshiku, distant potential Itsu. I don't really like that, although that 3 really helps.
Definitely.
I see this as between the dealer and the hand on the right. And now with that 5 pin pair, you can call for Tanya, and that's the way I expect this hand to move. Is if the 2 pin or 5 pin or even 8 mon comes out, you just call and go. And even Eric's hand across the way is getting better. But as mentioned, the 2 pin comes out and is called. and just going for the thousand, but it's not 1,000, it's 2,300.
Right. And when points are this close, having that bit of breathing room is very nice.
Takes the wider Ishan 10, can now take the 4 pin as well. No, that's a nice upgrade. Now you get rid of the 3 and you have a really wide Ishan 10. You always feel awkward keeping it around. Instead, I don't like that because I think the 8 mon could come at any time. Plays a little sucky Gary, getting rid of that 5 pin a little earlier. But when you're in this type of situation, do you honestly think you can fold against anyone with this hand? Because I don't. And June has the option: you keep the door or do you go for the Itsu? Instead, goes for the Itsu. It goes for the Dora shape, and I think leaves a little bit of value on the table there. But you can see later whether it'll pay off. Now you have to throw the 3 pin.
Right. That 3 pin is not helping you at all.
Okay, so it ends up in roughly the same shape now. Oh, and now we see a pair of 6 mon, so Lucas can go Tanya and does take that direction. Of course, you'd love to have Ricci with this. Tons of value.
Right. But at this point, it's you're midway through the second row. There's
Okay, well,
sticks on the
that
table.
looks like the Dora
Yeet.
shape was correct because on the left we have Ricci Dora waiting on 7, so there are 2 left in the wall. We now have Tempai on the right as well. You just push the 2 Sosuji here and hope that the 8 Genbutsu comes out, so you're feeling very good in that situation. Oh, and that's Tempai for dealer as well. I think you just hit the button. There's no reason to Dama unless you're really worried about that 1,000.
Right. Unless you want to
Yeet.
try to get a Pinfu upgrade. But
Says,
honestly, with
okay, enough
2 other
said.
Richis on the table, unfortunately for the dealers, there's only one more 3 mon
And
left.
Dustin draws a terrifying 8 Sodora indicator tile and says, okay, I'm out of here. Forget this. But we are waiting on the 3 mon. There is 1 left in the wall compared to the 7 so where there are 2 left in the wall.
Oh, that's unfortunate though for Dustin. If they had decided to toss that 8, would the dealer would have dealt in right then and there. But it's how it goes sometimes.
So it's just so scary here because you figure there are a lot of. Oh, I think you just push it now. You just have to suck it up and just jam it, and does. And there's the last 7. So we also have
Sumo.
Tempe on the right, and
Oh,
there it is, the
excellent.
7 Han. Sumo Zed, and that stupid 1 Han hand is worth 4,400. Completely shuts the rest of the table down, and Dustin not in control, but in very good shape in South 3 as dealer. And
Yeah,
has a
those
pretty good
sticks
hand
really.
as well. Not much value. Well, yeah, I mean, you look at that hand, and 3 Ricci sticks alone will always help a 1 Han hand into something useful.
Ooh, look at this dealer hand right here.
Yeah, not much value, but you're perfectly fine with it. You'd love more, but again, you'll take, especially there. You have now it is a headless Ishan 10. You'd really like to pair up the 8 or the 9 pin, though. Ricci no Mi good weight, much better than Ricci no Mi bad weight. On the right, we have distant 123 Sanshiku, but honestly feels slow. Across the way, we have Pinfu, Tanya, maybe Peiko, and a lone Dorohatsu. And on the left, we have decent shapes, maybe an Apeco in Mon, and would really like to pull the 7 pin in here as well. There's a Dora Hatsu as well, but it doesn't really fit into this hand. The hand feels cheap and kind of slow as you can pull in the 2, 3, 4 Sanchiku. It's a long way off. I think the hand to watch is dealers here. And this is another one of those situations where 3 different people have that lone Yakuhai honor. And the question is who pairs it up or who gets rid of it. And there's the first one. And if I'm June, I can't wait to get rid of this. This is a beautiful hand otherwise. Oh, that's a great draw. Dora immediately. Yeah. Because if you draw 4 so or 7 so, it'll be Ricci, Pinfu, Tanya, possibly Peiko. You'd be thrilled with that in this situation.
Right. Especially with these points still relatively close here.
You have Tempai, it's an ugly one. I think you still just take it though. Ricci Tanya waiting on these 5, 6, and takes the Dama. The problem is if it comes out, do you really want to take 1,000 point win to lock yourself into fourth? Looking for an upgrade here, and I just don't see many of them. That's the problem.
Yeah, I almost would have reached
Yeet.
there. You have your five and then just oh,
And
but
now you see
speaking of
Ricci
Ricci,
on the left for Ricci only. And what have you gained by delaying it? You've given other people time to catch up. Are you going to fold here? No, you can't. Not in fourth place. You immediately Ricci. You don't have time to mess around. And
Yeet.
by delaying like this, you put yourself in an awkward position where you know you probably have the worst weight. In fact, you do. And there's another five coming in on the right, the five mon. But let's look at the weight itself. So that five so six so actually still has three in the wall, only one in the dealer hand. And that 2, 5, of course, we're seeing them clumped up. There are only two left. And there's one of those five. So now it's what, a two versus two?
right? And it fits so nicely
Yeet.
into the dealer's hand here.
Yeah, dealer now waiting on that 9 mon. There are two left in the wall. So two versus two versus two.
Battle of the twos. Who will win?
And even without much value, you're still talking about 3,000. And there's the
Boom.
nine of the
Oh,
Ipatsu. Oh, that's so rough. Ricci Ipatsu. No aura, but a nice 6,900. And Dustin's pulling away from the rest of this table now.
right. Now you have some breathing room.
So now you're trying to focus on, can I get everyone under 30K and pick up that extra 5 UMA? Has a decent hand, but no value. You have a penchant 1, 2. Of course, waiting on the potential 3, so door indicator is always bad. So you'd like to look around and see if you can maneuver this hand somehow. On the right, though, we see the south pair, which is double Yaku High, and a 3 so which connects to the 4 so Dora across the way. Pinfu, possible Sanshuku in 7, 6, 8. Maybe Destiny Peiko in So. Ooh, I think the South comes out and it gets called pretty soon, but not yet. On the left, we have possible 1, 2, 3 Sanchu. Again, we would likely end up getting stuck on that 3 so as the door indicator, which is very hard to come out from
Boom.
anyone. And there is the South. It's called on the right. And Erik says, okay, well, I'll take my 2,000. But other than that, still need some upgrades to pull that together. And
Looks like the
Adora
dealer
will
is
help
just getting a bunch
immensely,
of
though.
pairs.
Ooh, and there's the 6 so across the way. And that's upgrades to a potential Ricci Pinfu Sanchuku Ipeiko.
Ooh, fills that Anko.
There's a pair up of the 8 pins. So there goes the Sanchuku, but it does upgrade the pair. You can cut the 1 mon later. And if you don't end up winning on the 9, you at least get the. Oh, there you go. Great. Now this is setting up to be Ricci, Pinfu, Tanya, possibly Peiko. And that's the type of hand you need when you're sitting at 20,600 in South 3.
Chi.
But we have a Chi on the right, and that'll be Tempai waiting on 9
Boom.
mon 8 so. And a Chi in response from opponent in response from the dealer, which is also Ishan 10.
Oh, that five. Nice fill.
There it is. This is
Ooh.
you just Ricci.
Yeet.
There's no
Yeah,
advantage to Dama here. Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyo, Ipeika waiting on 4, 7 pin, and there are 3 outs, so 5 in the wall. You're absolutely thrilled with the idea there are 5 left at this point.
it looks like dealer is also in Tempai.
No, dealer
Oh,
isn't.
not.
You also have some awkward shapes to pull together with the 7 and 8. As we know, the 7 would deal in, and that's the absolute worst case. Honestly, in this situation, Dustin has basically no reason to push.
Right.
Even if you
Since
pay
they
out
got
a
that
big
last
sumo,
hand, they
yeah,
have a bit
even,
of
yeah, you
space.
have the cushion. Even if you deal into, even if you pay out a big sumo, unless it's Hanemon, it doesn't really affect you. And of course, we know this could be Hanemon with Samura.
It looks like haven't had any more come into people's hands. Still plenty of
Well,
weights
we
in the
also have
wall.
Eric waiting on those. Ooh, there's a 4. Waiting on those 9 mon. There are 2 left. The 8 so of course is dead. And
No, there's
there's
a
one of
9.
those 9s. It is Suji. It may come out right here.
We'll see. Doesn't.
Doesn't yet. And there's another 7. Oh, there's the
Ooh,
7.
that's probably
And
coming out.
Eric. No, I think Eric folds. Yeah, he does fold.
Not
Eric
worth
tends
it.
not to push those, figuring that even if I pay out in Tempai payments, I don't think anyone else is Tempai, so I'll still be over 30,000 and would be correct.
Yes, and that's fair too. Also, you don't want to deal into last place there. A
Yeah, you'd
last
be
place
in last
Ricci.
place because we can already tell you that's guaranteed Mongon if you deal in there. But instead, only gets the 3,000, and you're really disappointed situation. Again, you're look at that log and see all those weights were stuck in the wall. You just didn't get them. I kind of want to see the dead wall after this game. But anyway, we're in South 4, 1600 in the middle. Dealer has a very nice hand. 2 completed shapes, a Ramba and a pair. You're feeling really good about this situation. On the right, we have standard Pinfu type shapes, a bunch of pairs as well. Across the way, we have a pair of Shaw and a pair of Dora Hatsu. So that's the interesting hand, is for Lucas to come back with this. And on the left, we have a distant Itsu, but feels just slow compared to the rest of these hands. The important hand, of course, is the one across, sitting with double Yakuhai, where 2 of those are Dora as well. So,
Oh,
ooh,
and
and draws another
gets that
one.
West.
And 3,900 is not normally enough, but would be enough here to get over 30K and just keeps pairing things up. Could be a little greedy and cut the 6-5, but says, you know what, that's enough. We'll just play it
Eats.
straightforward. But dealer in the meantime is Ricci Nomi on 1 pin, 5 pin. There's 1 5 pin out, and 3 of the other outs are in the wall. I think we have to figure it's going to be a fight between these two.
Right. When you have a hand like Lucas's, you want to push.
If you die, you die. I think you just
Exactly.
have to be playing. These are the. If you fold this, it's one of those that feels like you're playing to avoid demotion, and the easiest way, as any football coach will tell you, to
Oh,
lose is playing prevent defense.
that is rough for Lucas. If they had held on to those Souths, it would have been another Yakuhai to add on.
Yeah, unfortunate. Now Ishan 10, of course. I don't think the Hatsu comes out, but you could easily see the 2 or 5 in the wall. Of course, the 7 mon is also a Tempai. At 8's one chance. Figure you can probably push that without too much effort. Now, on the other hand, you might consider folding because you're starting to run out of Suji options. But the 1 so, of course, is safe. Early on, though, you're just pushing anything. And then if the 2 comes out here, you call it for Tempai. The 8
Right. You're
pin was
just
already pushed
hoping that
earlier.
Hatsu comes out, but I was
Sumo.
gonna say it's probably only gonna come out if the dealer drops it, but the dealer gets that 1 pin and picks
My
up an Ura.
goodness. Extra foo from the Anko, pulls in the 1, gets the Aura, and just like that, Eric's now in first place. And Dustin, who looked like he was in really good shape, is way back. And you now have a really rough fight for first and a really rough fight for third, with 3 home in the middle now. Dealer has decent shapes, maybe even shift to Tanyao. On the right, we have distant Itsu in pin, but most likely just a pin fu as well. Across the way, we have a potential 789 Sunshiku, but again, it just feels slow. The only fast hand is the one on the left. And when you consider that there's 900 in the middle from Homba, you don't need anything other than the Tanyao. So you can just go for the 1,000. And that's a great draw. Now, very wide Ishan 10. Well, the Ishan 10 itself isn't that wide, but you have so many upgrades here. Ew, yeah, I don't like the 9. You're
Yeah.
just going for the Tanyao. If you end
Right.
up
You
drawing
just
the
want to
A, you're
get
kind of sad, but it's not that bad.
right. You just want to get whatever you can as fast as possible.
And there you go. That's the huge upgrade you're looking for.
That helps.
Meanwhile, dealer's getting closer as well. The other two are kind of stuck here. Though Lucas is starting to pull in a bunch of tiles, maybe a Sananko type hand, but the shapes still look bad.
Ooh,
There's
that
the 8. You
8.
can just call it. Oh,
Yeet.
instead you just take the Tempai. You don't need to Ricci, but I guess you can. It'll be Ricci Tanya waiting on 5, 8 pin, and 4 so. The 8 pin is completely dead. The 5 pin has 3 left, and the 4 so has 1 left. And if
Right.
you're
It's
June, you should just push. The 8 mon should come out here. You're not that worried about anything because you're going to be in fourth. You look at your score on the overall standings. What do you have to lose? Just go.
right. The worst that can happen is you get more negative, but
And it's one thing to go down fighting, it's
Boom.
another thing to fold. But oh no, we see the deal in for Ricci Tanyao. Okay, doesn't end up costing that much. And of course, Erik is thinking, well, if I don't at least get Tempai, Dustin's going to end up winning from Tempai payments. But deals in for the 26, not punished with the Aura. But the end result is Dustin gets a nice little 26.5. Erik with 11.3 extends his lead over the division. Lucas takes a minus 12.6, and June just continues to sink. And I think the standing should update pretty soon, and Dustin's going to be in with that group right around Bishan and me.
feeling any worry?
Well,
Closing in
I
on
see. I'm
you.
much more worried about Lucas, Simon, Cause, and June right now. That's really what I'm interested in. Is where's the cut line? Of course, you figure if you're at plus minus 0, you're probably not in any real danger unless you get some really weird distributions. But if any one of them climbs, then all of a sudden there's a really scrappy fight. You figure at that minus 15, minus 20 mark could end up being really rough if one of those breaks through. But I think that's all we're going to be casting for now. There is another set of A1 games, but they're in a couple hours yet. So I think we're going to call this one and see you then.
Yep. Everyone have a little time, get some dinner, do some stretches.
Yeah, that'll be in around 2.5 hours. And I'll tell you what, I'm not hanging around out here for 2.5 hours. So, Sarah, any closing thoughts?
No. Sad to see that Yakuman was not meant to be.
Ah, the Yako, we've seen so many close ones. And we had a couple of wild games in B2 that weren't cast yesterday with some Yakumans. Huge standings change in B2C. But you can always check that out on our Twitter. Of course, please subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Twitch, all that fun stuff. Regardless, with Sarah, this is Korak from the American Reach Mahjong League. Signing off, we will be back in around 2.5 hours for another A1 match. Hope to see you then. Bye, everyone.
See you soon.